What's up, everybody, and welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour with your boy, Bill Colarulo. Good to see everybody checking in the chat already, nice and early. As you know, we're live every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. across the JAKIB Sports Network, across my YouTube channel, and we're live here on TikTok as well. A lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about with the NFL, the Eagles. We got a big Flyers game tonight representing. Big Flyers game tonight. Sixers dropped one last night to Sacramento. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll do some Phillies as we get ready for opening day. Pretty exciting. Phillies baseball is back. It's a long season, though. But we'll get into it. But appreciate everybody being here today. I see people already upset on TikTok about some of these NFL rule changes. I told you yesterday they were coming, but we'll talk a little bit more about it. But let's get a little roll call in the chat here today. I see my man Wine Niners Wine in the house, nice and early. Bry Guy in the house, flexing and stepping. Jimmy Wen, Kyle. Yeah, Kyle's saying he's here and they're looking to trade for J.C. Horn. I saw that on Twitter, but you never know. You never know. I mean, it's all types of rumors right now. So you never know what the hell's going on. Ooh, M. Ray has taken a shot at P. Diddy today, whose house was raided yesterday. See what the hell's going on there. We got James Beller, Joey Perchie, Decoy Gaming, David Laprati, Twiz, Slimville Slugger in the house. Gary Williams and Yeshi checking in on TikTok. So let's jump in. Provolone John checking in. But let's talk about it because people are already checking in about some of the rule changes. I told you yesterday the rules that were going to be voted on. And the one that I thought was going to pass for sure was the hip drop tackle. So it passes. Hip drop tackle is now banned in the NFL. And I don't understand this one. I really don't understand if you're a defender in this league now, what you're supposed to do. You can't hit a guy high. You hit a guy high, they're going to call a penalty for the headshot. And now you're going to get a running back coming at you full speed or a big tight end coming at you full speed. And as a defensive back, you're not going to be able to wrap them with both of your arms and then unweight yourself to try to bring them to the ground. So what I'm concerned about is if I'm a secondary player, I'm a corner, and I'm able to wrap them, I got to hold them up, right? I got to hold them up because I can't unweight myself to bring them to the ground. So I got to hold them up. So what happens then? One of my teammates has to come along while I'm holding this guy up, and he's got to light him up. He's got to just clean house with him. And then guess what's going to happen? 15-yard penalty, unnecessary roughness. So I don't know what you want these defensive players to do. Because if you're going to hold the guy up, which really is your only alternative if you can't unweight yourself and bring him to the ground, a teammate's going to come and clean him out. And then there's going to be the personal foul call. But see, the way I look at this is just another way for the NFL to create more offense. See, everything the NFL does, they do it under the guise of player safety. Oh, this is all about player safety. You're 25 times more likely to get injured on a hip drop tackle. So we're going to outlaw it. So the NFL, in one breath, player safety. But then the same NFL, let's increase the regular season from 16 games to 17 games. Let's increase the regular season from 17 games to 18 games because you know that's coming. You know 100% that's coming. Let's have Thursday night football. Let's have these guys on 3 days rest. You play Sunday, you know what? You'll be fine. You'll be fine by Thursday to play another game. Because player safety doesn't matter when you're talking about dollars. Let's get rid of the hip drop tackle for player safety, but let's make it an 18-game season. Let's give these guys 3 days rest on Thursday night football. Oh, and you know what? We know the research is irrefutable that grass fields are a lot safer than artificial turf. But we're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore the fact that grass is a lot safer than turf. We're not going to buy that type of research, but let's outlaw the hip drop tackle. Let's get rid of that because that's ruining careers. Not artificial turf, not the turf at freaking MetLife Stadium. No, that's fine. You know why that's fine? Because it would cost dollars to replace it. It would cost more money to replace it and have to take care of the natural grass. So they're not going to do that. They're not going to shorten the season. They're not going to get rid of Thursday night football, but they'll outlaw a hip drop tackle. And I see Terry Hayes checking in. How's Big Bill this fine Tuesday morning? Good morning, Terry. Appreciate that. Big Bill's in the house. Some of you know the reference. But Thursday night football is fine. 18-game season is fine. Fake turf is fine. But hip drop tackle, that's got to go. Because the whole point of this, and the NFL can talk until they're blue in the face, the whole point of this is they want to create more offense. They want to make things more difficult on the defense. You're not going to sell me that it's all about player safety. And then you talk about the lengths they go through to protect the quarterback. That's also because they want more points. And look, I'm not going to fault the NFL. They're a business, right? It's a business. The NFL is making billions of dollars. The NFL is the monster. Every other professional sports league wishes they could have the money and the reach and the power that the NFL has. But it's a business. So I'm not going to fault them for doing things to improve their product. And I put, quote, improve, because I know a lot of us who grew up with football don't think this is an improvement. But they know what they're doing. They absolutely know what they're doing. Every single time they make a change, we lose our minds, we pound our fist on the table, we say we're never going to watch again, and yet their numbers keep going up. So they keep making money. And I look at this as just another way for them to create more offense. It's already very difficult on defenses. They've already put rules in place to protect the quarterback. They've already made it very difficult for defenders in the passing game. You can't even hit guys over the middle anymore without getting that 15-yard penalty. And now they just added this one in, which will also add more offense. Because if you look, 3 rules passed. Actually, 4 rules now. The hip drop tackle was banned. They passed a rule about penalties on a change of possession. That's a minor one. They passed the rule about the challenges. So you used to get 2 challenges, and if you got them both right, you'd get a third. Now, as long as you get one of them right, you get a third. But they just passed the kickoff rule. So if you look, they're doing it under the guise of, well, the kickoff rule will promote player safety. The hip drop tackle being banned will promote player safety. And that may be true. But the ultimate theory behind it is because they want more offense. So not only does the hip drop tackle promote more offense because it makes it harder on the defense, the kickoff rule will result in better field position, which in turn will lead to more offense. That's what they want. The NFL is not happy. Their points over the course of a season have decreased 3 seasons in a row. NFL doesn't like that. As much as us traditionalists about the game of football may love defense. See, I can watch a 7-3 game and enjoy it if you're getting great defense because I respect the game. But a majority of the fans out there, they want scoring. They want big plays, explosive, exciting plays. So that's what the NFL wants because it's all about the dollars. It's all about the money. So they're going to sell us on the idea that the hip drop ban and the kickoff change is player safety. But then the same NFL will tell us Thursday night football, 18-game seasons, artificial turf is fine because it's all about money. So the kickoff rule we talked about yesterday has been passed. Now, understand that this is a one-year trial. I see Slimville Slugger saying, explain the kickoff rule. I will do my best. I understand it up here, but it's hard to verbalize it. You kind of have to see it, but I'll do my best of explaining. So the kicker will line up at his own 35-yard line. Okay? Kickoff will line up at his own 35-yard line. Only the kicker will be there. You got to go to the other team's 40, where all 10 of the kickoff team will be lined up. So you're going to see a massive gap. So if you're visualizing it, you're going to have your kicker all the way over here on the 35. And then all the way on the other side of the field, at the opposing team's 40, will be all 10 of the kickoff team lined up. 5 yards across from them on the 35 will be 7 players on the receiving team. So now they're only going to be 5 yards apart. So picture it in your head. You got the kicker way back there. You're going to have the 10 kickoff team here. You're going to have 7 of the return team here on the 35, 5 yards apart. They cannot move. Neither of them can move until the ball is caught by the return team. And then behind those 7 players, you could have another 2 in between the 35 and the 30, and then you can have 2 returners. So that's the first part of the rule. The second part of the rule is there is now a landing zone. So the kicker, in theory, they're trying to promote this. The kicker has to land the ball in the red zone between the 20 and the goal line. That's the landing zone. That's going to be where they want the ball to land so that the returner is going to return the kick. They want more returns. If it doesn't land in the landing zone, if they put it short of the landing zone, the receiving team gets the ball at the 40. If they put it in the end zone, in the air, they'll get the ball at the 30. I believe it's the 30, not the 35. Let me confirm that because I've seen 2 different things. But I think it's at, I just want to make sure if it goes in the end zone in the air. Yeah, you get it at the 30. So touchbacks now, traditional touchbacks, if it goes into the end zone in the air, you get it at the 30. What they're trying to do is penalize the team to say, hey, listen, we don't want you to kick it short because we'll give it to them at the 40. We don't want you to kick it into the end zone because we'll give it to them at the 30. Land it in the landing zone so we have more returns. So, and I see Yeshi saying that Adam Schefter put up a video on his X. So the point of this, though, is them trying to create more kickoffs and say, hey, we're trying to promote player safety, but they want more returns. But if you really look deeper into it, what they're doing is that I can't remember who it was. It may have been the Giants owner, but one of the owners said that the research shows that on average now, they believe the new kickoff rule will result in 3 to 5 yards better field position on average. And that may not sound like a lot, but 5 more yards field position, they think in theory will result in more points. Everything is about more offense. Everything is about more points. And now Slimville Slugger says, well, how do you onside kick? Well, the surprise onside kick is gone. You're only going to be allowed to onside kick in the 4th quarter, and you have to declare it. So you got to tell the other team, we're going to go for an onside kick, and then it'll be similar to the way the onside kicks used to be before. So no more surprise onside kicks. So 1-year trial. We'll see how it goes. I got to be honest with you. I actually like this better than what it was last year. Because what you got last year was absurd. The fact that you could fair catch anywhere on the field and get the ball at the 25-yard line was ridiculous. The fact that the kickers could literally put it out of the back of the end zone because of how far up you moved the kickoff, it basically became a ceremonial play. That was it. So I'm actually okay with this. Let's try something different. Let's increase some returns. Now, the interesting thing is the fact that neither the kickoff team or the return team can move until the ball is fielded should create some interesting things, some interesting returns. So we'll see. It's going to look weird. When we watch that first game, opening night, Thursday night football, when you watch that first game, it's going to look weird as soon as it starts. But we'll see how things go. But it's all about the dollars. We know that. It's all about money. So let's take a look, too, because in addition to the rule changes, our man, Nick Sirianni, gave a press conference this morning. My buddy Nick, that you guys all accuse me of defending too much. But here's some takeaways. I watched the full 36 minutes of Nick Sirianni, and, man, like, you know that I was all for Sirianni coming back. All for it. I don't think he should have been fired. I've given you my reasons before for this. I don't think Sirianni should have been fired. I think we were asking him to do something last year that's never been done. For those of you who are here all the time, for those of you who follow me, you're going to hear it again. Sirianni didn't deserve to be fired. The guy has brought this team to the playoffs all 3 seasons. No Eagles coach has ever done that in his first 3 years before. He lost both his offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator after losing the Super Bowl. That's only happened twice in NFL history. George Seifert and Steve Young, they couldn't overcome it in 1995. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, they couldn't overcome it in 2005. So the fact that we were asking Sirianni to do something that no one in the history of the NFL has ever done before, he did not deserve to be fired. Now, with that being said, he's got to learn how to give a press conference. I mean, he's got to learn. You can't just go on these. He just rambles on and on and on. At times when Sirianni's talking, I almost would wish we still had the Andy Reid just, I got to do a better job, and then move on to the next question. Because I just can't take the rambling, man. The rambling. And I like Sirianni. So I can only imagine people who don't like Sirianni, how annoyed you must get. Listen to these press conferences. Because he just rambles. But anyway, some takeaways. So, I mean, these are my notes here of all the takeaways. So I'll just go through them a little bit. He was asked about Saquon Barkley, and he compared him to when they made the move for A.J. Brown. It appears, no surprise, that Saquon Barkley is going to be a big part of this offense. No surprise. But what I keep finding interesting is that both Sirianni and Howie Roseman made it a point to talk about Saquon Barkley's leadership. And I thought that was interesting now, because we have heard that Saquon's a good leader. He was a captain in New York. But when you're losing guys like Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, and we're wondering where's the leadership going to come from on this team, the fact now that we've heard it 2 days in a row about Saquon Barkley's leadership, I think he's going to have a really big role, not only on the field. I think they're going to lean on him a lot in that locker room. And not only did they talk about Saquon Barkley as a leader, he did talk about Jalen Hurts, obviously. And he made it a point to reference on offense Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata. Talking about that. So Paul Mancini, Paul, is that news or is that just what you're projecting? Sorry, if you guys aren't on, if you're on TikTok, one of our followers on YouTube is saying he's hearing that Reddick to the Ravens for their 2024 third rounder, a 2025 sixth rounder, and then the Ravens give Reddick a 3-year, $66 million deal. Is that something that you're saying you heard, or is that somewhere? Because I'm not seeing it. What do you got on that, Paul Mancini? Let me know in the chat. Because I'll tell you what, If that's what he's getting, $22 million a year, then the Philadelphia Eagles better freaking match it. They better match it. And we talked about this yesterday. They better match that. Because that's not crazy numbers for a guy as good as Reddick on a team where you're supposed to be all in. So let me know, Mancini, in the chat if that's just something you're saying is going to happen or you actually got that. Because I'm not seeing anything yet on Twitter with that. Because that would not be $22 million. Eagles would do that, I would think. Anyway, so some more takeaways from Sirianni. Talked about Kellen Moore. Now, I know some fans are freaking out because he once again said meshing of the ideas. When they talked about, is this going to be Kellen Moore's offense or is this going to be Nick Sirianni's offense? Once again, he talked about we're going to mesh things together. But I think if you really listened, he made it a point to talk about how Kellen Moore is directing the ship. He made another point to say Kellen is doing a good job of leading the offense. He made it a point to reference Doug Nussmeier, the quarterback coach that Kellen Moore brought in with him. So I don't believe that this is going to be truly a blending of ideas. I think this is going to be a majority of Kellen Moore's offense. And I see more people talking about Reddick. I'm not seeing that. Is that just a rumor you're creating, Paul Mancini? Or did it happen? Anyway. But I do think that this is going to be a majority of Kellen Moore's offense. But I'll tell you this. I'm okay with them bringing in some of the ideas from Sirianni's offense. I know that everybody wants to just say Sirianni's a clown. The offense has had a lot of success over the last 3 seasons. Things weren't always pretty last year. They were terrible towards the end of the season. But I don't think you completely throw out the window everything that this offense did well over the last 3 years. So I think it's an overreaction, fans or analysts or talking heads getting upset, that Sirianni's going to be involved in the offense. He needs to just completely get out of the room. I don't agree with that. Now, I don't want Sirianni having a big ego coming in there saying, hey, we're doing this and we're doing that. But why would you completely throw out the window everything that this team did do well over the last 3 seasons? Because you could be the most negative person in the world, and I know we got a lot of them here. You can't deny that this offense has done some good things over the last 3 years. My man Flexen and Steppen, who's maybe the most negative person in our chat when it comes to Nick Sirianni, can you really say that this offense hasn't done anything well in 3 seasons? Can you really say that, though? Adam's exploits. Can you really say that? That this offense hasn't done anything at all well in 3 years? I mean, come on, man. You go back to 2022, they were one of the most dominant offenses in the NFL. I know you don't want to give any credit to Nick Sirianni for that. None at all. When the offense, same argument you guys make about Jalen Hurts. When he plays well, it's always the weapons, not Jalen. When he plays bad, it's always Jalen's fault. Same thing with the offense. When they do good things, it was all Shane Steichen. When they do bad things, Sirianni's a clown. You can't have it both ways, guys. You can't have it both ways. It can't always be they only get credit when things go bad. So what I'm saying is I do want this to be Kellen Moore's offense. But I'm okay with Sirianni saying, hey, these are the things that Jalen's done well over the last 3 years. These are the plays that really have worked over the last 3 years. To not do that, in my opinion, would be asinine. Why would you take an offense that was top 3 in 2022, top 8 in 2023, and say, hey, listen, we're not going to do anything we did before Kellen Moore got here? Anyway. Yeah, and here we go. Let's go to pork roll, egg, and cheese because he's taking a shot at me, so we'll address it. If you're not on TikTok, I'm reading the comment. He says, what has the offense done well without Steichen? Let's go back to 2022. When Steichen ran the offense, these homer takes are making this once-lived contender unlistenable. Okay, so let's ask this. So how come we are always so quick in this town to always give the credit to the offensive coordinator, but the head coach gets zero credit? We did the same thing to Doug Peterson. We did the exact same freaking thing to Doug Peterson, okay? What happened after the Super Bowl year? They lost Frank Reich and John DeFilippo. And what did we say? Doug Peterson. Oh, he had nothing to do with this offense. It was all Frank Reich. Frank Reich was the genius. Frank Reich was the mastermind. What the hell has Frank Reich done since he's left Philadelphia? And I actually like Frank Reich. I actually wanted Frank Reich to come back here and be involved in the offense. I did. I like him. But to completely ignore that the head coach has anything to do with success and only blame him when things go bad is ridiculous. It can't be that way. Those arguments don't work. It can't be a one-way street. You can't only blame Sirianni for their failures and not give him any credit whatsoever for their successes. In 2022, when this team was dominating everybody and went to the Super Bowl and were up 10 at freaking halftime against the best team we maybe have ever seen with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, Sirianni had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. But they come back this year and they don't look as good, and now Sirianni's a clown. You can't only blame him for the negatives. I'm not saying that Sirianni did a great job last year. They need to be better. There's no excuses this season. I gave them the excuses last year. The Super Bowl hangover, losing both coordinators. I gave them the excuses last year. They had the toughest schedule in the league. And if he comes out this year and Sirianni and this team struggles, then I will be the first to admit that Sirianni isn't the answer and he should go. But to sit here now, after one season where things didn't go that well down the stretch, and ignore what happened in 2022 and what happened in 2021, to me, isn't right. It's not correct to say this guy is a clown and he should be fired, and you just ignore all of the successes. And the same people that do this about Sirianni, you do it with Jalen Hurts. Every single time the offense looks good or Jalen looks good, it's always because of his weapons. But then when the things struggle, it's, oh, Jalen Hurts can't read a defense. Oh, Jalen Hurts is overrated. Oh, they should have never paid Jalen Hurts. You can't have it both ways, man. You can't have it both ways. Coaches and the quarterback should be given credit when things go well, and they should be criticized when things go bad. But you can't only have it the one way you want it. Anyway. We're going to take a quick break. Got me all worked up, pork roll, egg, and cheese. All worked up. And listen, I'll stand on this. You know I've defended Sirianni. If things come out this year and this team doesn't look good with all the weapons they have, with all the talent that they have, if this team doesn't look good, I will be the first to admit that I was wrong about Sirianni and you were right. But I also want you to remember this. If this team has success this year, I want everybody who's here in the chat to remember what I've been preaching, that bringing Sirianni back was the right move. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'll go through some of these other takeaways from Sirianni, and then I want to talk a little bit Flyers, Sixers, and hopefully we can get into the fight in Phils. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back in to the Philly Sports Power Hour. During the break, we were still live on TikTok. And I was talking about how, in addition to having faith in Nick Sirianni, that I still have faith in Jalen Hurts. And Coach Ice on TikTok says, Hurts will never be a Brady, Mahomes, or Peyton Manning. Saying to Coach Ice, I don't disagree with that, but I also don't think that that's necessarily the standard. I mean, you could be a really good quarterback in this league. Are there any quarterbacks in the league right now who you would say, yeah, they could be a Brady, a Mahomes, or a Peyton Manning? And those are three of the greatest we've ever seen. So, anyway, we'll keep talking. So, my man Big Sills just tweeted out, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni says it will be a blending of ideas between he and new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Sirianni once again poisoning the game plan. Hashtag 7-win season. So, once again, I completely disagree with Big Sills. 1,000% disagree with Big Sills. Because to me, it would be absolutely asinine for you to say, we are not going to take any of the things we've done well over the last 3 seasons. We're not going to take any of them. Why would you do that? There's not a single person. I don't care how freaking negative you're going to be. I don't care if you're going to call me a homer. There is not a single person here who can say that over the last 3 seasons, this offense hasn't done anything well. You can't say that. You'd be lying to yourself to say that the offense hasn't done a single thing well in 3 years. Anyway, but Big Sills don't like it. Let's see what else they talked about. Talked about spreading the ball around. Sirianni says it's a good problem to have. And then he goes on, this is what I talk about, just moving on. Then he goes on this whole rant about how important it is to build the connection of the team, and everyone's excited for each other. He gets into his core values again. What I thought was interesting, though, he was asked about right guard. He said that he's excited about the players he has. He did mention Hennessy. He was asked specifically about Tyler Steen. He said he's excited about his development. But he also made it a point to say there's still free agency, there's still the draft, there's still post-draft, and the trade deadline. So he's not ready to commit as to who this right guard's going to be. So that one was interesting. What else did he say? Asked about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Once again, we talk about looking to add tough pieces. He talked about how CJ was a guy willing to throw his body around, plays physically and mentally tough. He's excited for his toughness and his constant energy. I think we all are. I think you looked at that defense last year, and they really lacked personnel. They really lacked not only good players, but they lacked an identity on defense. They had nobody that really wanted to come up and hit you in the mouth. So I also like what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson adds, but they can't be done. They cannot be done. Yeah, here we go. Let me go to my man MC, because this is a great comment by my man MC. You're all giving Steichen all the credit for 2022 and Johnson no blame for 2023. Knock it off. My man MC. This is what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about from our overly negative crowd. Sirianni gets no credit for what happened in 2022. It was all his offensive coordinator. But in 2023, we're not going to blame the offensive coordinator. It's all Nick Sirianni. Thank you, MC. What else we got? This was the thing that still bothers me. So Sirianni was asked about his relationship with Jalen Hurts. And I keep waiting for them to just definitively say that everything's fine. But once again, he didn't really say it. He said, when you're going through tough times, all relationships are tested. And then he goes through how, all the relationships are important, not just him and Jalen, but Jalen and Kellen and Doug, and Kellen and Kevin. And he goes through all the coaches and how important it is. I'm just wanting him to say, hey, yeah, everything's fine with me and Jalen. And I don't know why he won't just come out and say it. So that's the one thing that bothered me throughout this whole takeaway. I thought it was interesting, too. He was asked if they're going to change his process with regard to the approach of the season. He did say it's not written in stone. We're going to look at what we can do better. Practices will be a little bit different. So we're going to find out, does that mean that they're actually going to hit a little bit more? Because we know they are notorious for having really light practices. So we'll see if that does anything. And then he talked about running backs. He made it a point, in addition to Saquon, to mention Kenny Gainwell. They're excited for Gainwell. And then asked about the wide receiver room. He really talked up Paris Campbell. So I knew he had a history with Paris Campbell during their time in Indianapolis, but he really talked up Paris Campbell, who's got a real shot to be that wide receiver 3. Disappointing year last year for Paris Campbell in New York. He had a good year in 2022 with the Indianapolis Colts, 63 catches, over 600 yards. But last year, 12 games in New York, benched for the final 5, 20 catches for 104 yards. Not good. Now, is that because of the quarterbacks he played with? So we'll see how that all goes. But as we're talking NFL, as we're talking Eagles, the over-under came out for wins for the Philadelphia Eagles. So this one I'm getting from DraftKings. I know Parks Casino has theirs. But the over-under for wins for the Philadelphia Eagles is 10.5. So obviously Big Sills would be taking the under. Shocker. He thinks 7 wins. But there's only 2 teams. Actually, I think Baltimore is up there too. But there's only one team in the NFC with a better over-under on wins, and that's the 49ers. So they got, just for the NFC, the Niners 11.5, the Eagles, the Lions, the Packers, the Cowboys at 10.5, and another team that I thought was surprising, the Atlanta Falcons. So with the addition of Kirk Cousins, the Atlanta Falcons now 10.5 wins over under, which I guess shouldn't be surprising since they play a ton of games in that NFC South that's just terrible. So they're at 10.5. So the Eagles right now do not have the best odds to win the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys are still plus 125. Now, this is according to DraftKings. The odds may be different in other places. But NFC East, Dallas plus 125, Eagles plus 135. Washington plus 750, the New York Giants plus 1,000. The Giants over-under on wins, 6.5. Terrible. They just gave all that money to Daniel Jones, and their owner yesterday, John Mara, said if they fall in love with a quarterback, they can draft one. New York's a mess. Washington, 7.5 is over-under on their wins. But what's interesting is Dallas plus 125 to win the East, the Eagles plus 135, but both of them have the same odds to win the NFC Championship. You got the Niners at plus 250, the Lions at plus 550, and then the Eagles and the boys are tied at plus 700. So interesting. But let's take a look, because Big Sills says 7 wins, right? Let's look at some of the opponents. Now, I know things can change. There's still a long offseason. But now that we got a little bit of a first wave of free agency, let's take a look. So the Eagles at home will have the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Commanders. Now, I know this is way too early, and I know sometimes this exercise is crazy because anything can happen in the season. But let's just look. So the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Commanders. Well, let's say they win all 3 at home. Then they have the Panthers at home. The Panthers are freaking terrible, okay? Win. Now you're at 4. Then they got the Browns, most likely in Brazil. What do we think about that game? Browns, Eagles opening up the season. That one's kind of a toss-up. Browns got a good defense. But who's going to be their quarterback? So I think it'll be a tough game, but who's playing quarterback for the Browns week 1? Is Deshaun Watson? So I won't give it a win, but I'm not ready to say that's a definite loss. Anybody saying, hey, the Browns is a definite loss? Then you have the Falcons at home. I'm giving the Eagles a win there at Lincoln Financial Field. They always play well against Kirk. Then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to suck, okay? Russell Wilson stinks. So now you're at 6 wins already. Let's give them a loss to the Packers. I think they could beat the Packers at home, but I'll play along. We'll give them a loss. Jacksonville comes into town with Trevor Lawrence and Dougie P. You think they win that game? I think they do. Right there, there's 7. We haven't even gotten to the road games yet. 7 wins, not even at the road games yet. And I see Paul Mancini, Browns win going away. Maybe they do. I didn't put it down as a win. I didn't put the Packers down as a win, even though it could be. So now you're at 7. Then you got the Giants on the road, who I know they struggled with this year, but really, come on. The Giants are terrible. They should beat the Giants and the Commanders on the road. I know they struggle, but giving them the benefit of the doubt here, I just want to show you how easy it's going to be. May come back to eat those, how easy it would be. But these are games that they could win. Now you're at 9. Cowboys on the road is a tough game. Ravens on the road is a tough game. Bengals on the road is a tough game. And then you got the Saints, the Bucks, and the Rams all on the road. I think they could beat the Saints and the Bucks. They showed it this year in the regular season, at least. They dominated the Bucks, and then that wild card was just a mess. Saints, they don't impress me. And then the Rams, we'll see what you got. But you look at all these games, there's a reason why Vegas is giving them a 10.5 over-under. The Eagles could very easily win 12 games this year. Now, I get it. Things can go the other way. But they could easily win 12 games. So We'll see how it all shakes out. Well, let's switch gears for a second. What's up, Danny? I see you checking in on TikTok. Let's switch gears. We'll talk a little Sixers. Sixers dropped one last night to Sacramento. I really wanted to see them go 2-2 on the West Coast trip. They end up going 1-3. So now they sit there, unfortunately, in the 8th seed, 1.5 points back. So I'm seeing people in the chat talking about the record here. But yeah, Provolone John saying it depends on how the schedule plays out. Exactly right. But they shouldn't, you would hope, knock on wood, you would hope that they're not going to have as tough of a stretch as they had last year. But we're not allowed to talk about that, Provolone John. The tough stretch didn't matter last year. It was all because Nick Sirianni's a clown. We're not allowed to talk about the tough record. That would be an excuse that I would be making because, you know, I'm a homer. Can't talk about the tough schedule last year. You can't talk about the fact that they had Monday night games, Thursday night games, Sunday night games. They had all that travel against all those tough teams. Can't talk about that. You turn it into a homer, can't talk about that. Can't talk about the tough stretch. Can't talk about the Super Bowl hangover. Can't talk about losing both coordinators. No. That makes you a homer. You got to just call Sirianni a clown. That's what we got to do here. That's what we do in Philly. It's always the coach. It's always the quarterback. Fire the coach. Give me the backup quarterback. That's the way to win. And if, God forbid, you're not over the top negative, they call you a homer. I'm never going to be over the top negative, boys and girls. I'll tell you how I truly feel. Sometimes, yeah, you need to be negative. Sometimes you need to be critical. But it doesn't always have to be that way. I'm going to give you how I truly feel. I will always be objective. And you look at every single thing that this team had going up against them last year. Every single thing. When the schedule came out, everybody was nervous about that freaking schedule. Everybody. We talked about the Super Bowl hangover all damn offseason. People were concerned about it. So we were worried about the schedule. We were worried about the Super Bowl hangover. We were worried about the changing coordinators. We were worried about all of that. But then when the season doesn't result in a Super Bowl, we want to fire the coach because he's a clown. And God forbid you reference anything that we were concerned about. Now you're a homer. Anyway, Sixers, 1.5 back, 8th seed. They got to do what they got to do to try to stay in the top 6, but I know everybody's losing hope. So am I. But, hey, maybe Joel comes through that door. Maybe there's a chance they can go on a little bit of a run. But the team I'm really fired up about is the Philadelphia Flyers. Hold on. You guys, I can't ignore the chat because now I got Barbara Carroll saying my defensive Jalen Hurts is over the top. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts is terrible, right? Now we're going to act like Jalen Hurts is terrible. The guy was the front runner for the MVP in 2022 until he got hurt. He was the front runner for the MVP until week 13 last season. He outperformed Patrick Mahomes in the goddamn Super Bowl. Excuse my language. Just getting me all worked up. I can't take the over-the-top negativity. I can't take that all we want to do is look at the small sample size of negative and ignore the majority of the guy's career. Jalen Hurts is 36-20 in his career. 36-20. But we want to take the small sample size and we want to say this guy can't play quarterback. Nick Sirianni, 3 straight playoff appearances. We want to take the small sample size and say he's a clown. And because I point that out, I'm a homer. Did anybody like Brian Johnson last year? Did anybody like Brian Johnson? Can anybody in the chat tell me that Brian Johnson was a good offensive coordinator? Please, let me hear your argument about why Brian Johnson was a good offensive coordinator. Did you see teams lining up to hire him as an offensive coordinator or as a head coach? Brian Johnson couldn't get an offensive coordinator job. Brian Johnson couldn't get a head coaching job. But now we're going to ignore the fact that there was a bad offensive coordinator. It was all Jalen Hurts. It was all Nick Sirianni. It had nothing to do with Brian Johnson. Because it doesn't fit your guy's narrative. It doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit to be over-the-top negative, because if we're negative about Brian Johnson right now, that doesn't move the needle because he's not here. So you want to be over-the-top negative, it's got to be about Sirianni and Jalen. Nothing to do with Brian Johnson. But 2022, it was all about Shane Steichen, right? It was all about Shane Steichen. He's the only reason. The only reason this team had success was Shane Steichen. And listen, I am not saying that Sirianni had a good year last year. I'm not saying he did. This was Sirianni's offense as well. I'm not absolving him. What I'm saying is he needs to be better this year. But to overreact and say you want to fire him because of the way the season ended last year and ignore everything else that happened, ridiculous, man. The same people in the chat, the same people who want to say Jalen stinks and want to say Sirianni's a clown, I guarantee you all of you think Jordan Love is the next coming, right? Everybody thinks Jordan Love is the next coming. Jordan Love is the next big quarterback in the NFL. You may be right. I like Jordan Love. I actually do think Jordan Love is going to be very good. But guess what? You're basing that off a half a season. Jordan Love was not good before Thanksgiving. We're basing it off half a season. So you look at Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, and we have a 3-year history to look at, but we want to say, no, it was only 1 year. Jalen only did that in 2022. Jalen was only good for half of 2023. But yet Jordan Love, every one of you are ready to anoint. Every single person. Jordan Love. And I like Jordan Love. This isn't a shot on Jordan Love. I think he's very good. But you're basing it off what he did starting on Thanksgiving. He hasn't done anything else in his NFL career. And everybody wants to anoint Jordan Love. Anyway. Fly Guy's back in action tonight. Can we all agree we're getting excited about the Flyers at least? Can we all agree? And I see Coach Ice say somebody loses a Super Bowl every year. Not sure what that's in regard to, but only 6 Super Bowl losers, 6 coaches in history have ever gotten back after losing one. Hasn't happened in the NFC in 50 years. So we'll see if the Niners can break that trend this year. Flyers back in action. They're only 2 points up on the Washington Capitals, but the Capitals have 2 games in hand. So we need the Philadelphia Flyers to win tonight. They're in New York against the Rangers. Washington is playing Detroit, so keep an eye on that game, but this is a big one for them. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Fightin' Phils today. So we'll do that Thursday morning. Now, this may make some of you happy since we're not seeing eye to eye today. I will not be here tomorrow. There will be no Power Hour tomorrow. I got to be on 97.5 The Fanatic from 10 to 2. I'm hosting their midday show with Bob Cooney tomorrow. So there will be no Power Hour tomorrow. I didn't get canceled after yelling at all of you today. But no Power Hour tomorrow. So we'll be back on Thursday. So if there's nothing else going on JAKIB tomorrow during this time, tune into The Fanatic. But, yeah, I don't think they're going to have anything during this time tomorrow. So I'll be back on Thursday, and we'll do some Phillies talk because I do want to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies, their closer situation. Jordan Montgomery's still available, right? So whether they should get him as a starting pitcher. And then can they win the NL East? I want to talk about that too, because I think if they come out to a hotter start, they got a shot. Won't be easy with how good the Braves are. But if you look at the numbers, the quicker start can work. And yeah, Provolone John, you can text into The Fanatic. We got a text line now. It's the same number as the call-in line. No Kayla this week because of Wednesday, unfortunately. Yeah, I am a little bit cranky today. I see Paul Mancini asking me if I ran out of creamer for my coffee. First of all, I do my coffee black. No creamer, no sugar. Ruins the taste. Always go black coffee. I just get frustrated. And listen, I get frustrated because I get accused of being a homer because I'm not over the top negative. You don't have to be over the top negative or a homer. There's a middle ground. There's something called objectivity, right? There's something called looking at things and having a take based off of actually what you see. You don't have to be overly positive or overly negative. Jalen Hurts last year, way too many turnovers. Way too many turnovers last year. He needs to be better. But to ignore everything he's done in his career because of the way last season ended is an overreaction. Nick Sirianni needs to be better next year. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, coming off of a Super Bowl loss, dealing with a Super Bowl hangover, and losing both of his coordinators. Giving him the benefit of the doubt. Because he has had a lot of success in this league. It's not easy to win games in the NFL. And Sirianni's won a lot of games as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. So giving him the benefit of the doubt. But pointing these things out doesn't make you a homer. Just because you want me to get up here and just be over the top negative, that's not who I am. I'm not going to do it. Everything that comes out of my mouth is how I truly feel about it. When I see something, I'm going to give you my objective opinion on what I see and how I'm analyzing it. And here's the typical argument. John, in the YouTube chat, talking about Jalen. He had one good season. This is why I brought up the Jordan Love comparison. You're going to get on Jalen because he had one good season, but we're going to anoint Jordan Love after 7 games. You can't have it both ways, guys. You can't have it both ways. Jalen's is just one season. Oh, he's not good. It was only one season. But yet Jordan Love is the man. I don't get it, man. Jordan Love can pass. That's my point. Listen, first of all, they're different style quarterbacks. Different style quarterbacks. Is Jordan Love a better pocket passer? Probably. Let him do it longer. Let's see what he does once defenses adjust, just like Jalen had to do this year. Defensive coordinators adjust, right? But Jalen has shown he has an ability to throw from the pocket. We've seen it. Was it good last year? No. What I saw was a quarterback who didn't have any faith in the offensive game plan, who didn't have any faith in his pass protection. So we'll see how he does this year. But you also can't take away the fact that Jalen has a lot of success with his legs. We talked about it last week on the show. I told you when he has 14 carries, they're undefeated. When he has more than 10 carries, they're 16-4. Anyway, we're running out of time. Today in sports history, like we end every Power Hour, March 26, 1979, Michigan State beat Indiana State 75-64 in the NCAA championship. Well, why do I bring that up? I bring it up because it was the first time ever that Magic Johnson and Larry Bird played against each other. It was the highest rated game in history of televised college basketball at the time. Magic dropped 24. Larry Bird, 19 points, 13 rebounds. Michigan State wins it, but it started one of the best rivalries we've ever seen in the NBA. Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird. It started March 26, 1979. They went on to meet 3 more times in NBA Finals. So March 26, 1979, one of the best NBA rivalries ever got started at the NCAA championship between Magic and Bird. But I'm Bill Colarulo. Check me out tomorrow on The Fanatic. We won't be here, but I will be back Thursday morning, 10 o'clock, and we'll talk some Fightin' Phils as we get ready for opening day. Even though I don't agree with everybody in the chat, even though you get me worked up sometimes in the chat, I respect all of you. I appreciate all of you, and I thank you for being here with me for this hour. Until next time, I'm Bill Colarulo, and as always, go Birds.